Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel, and today we're going to be looking at a very interesting product, most notable because his recent appearance on Fool Us. Of course, we're talking about Markobi, and also for quite a few of you have seen probably his Physimac and you're wondering where can I learn some of his material. There's nowhere that I could kind of see where to get this material. However, there is an avenue where you can learn it, and that is his lecture on P.Molina's website, and it's a jam-packed lecture of material with some hints as to how he does some of his Physimac, but not completely, but it still has a lot of weight to it. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect, so you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Markobi's lecture. So what is Markobi's lecture? As per the title, it is a lecture. It's a lecture spanning over 5 hours long, close to 5 hours, like 4 hours 58, 4 hours 55, close to 5 hours long, in which he's going to dissect card magic thoroughly. Now, there is one important thing to note, is that the lecture is in French. So if you do not speak French, you're going to have a very hard time understanding the subtleties and the thinking behind the effects. So the theoretical thinking that Markobi applies to his magic, which is fascinating. However, if you're just looking for effects, I do still think because of the way it's filmed and explained, even though you don't understand the language, you're still going to understand what's happening. So even if you don't understand, for example, me speaking in French, if I take 2 kings, you see me place 2 kings, and then I show you that I'm doing here a double lift, and I'm adding the kings right here, I still think you're gonna understand what's going on, even though you don't speak the language, right? So I feel it is graspable, so I feel you can understand it, but it will be a bit more difficult and you may actually not understand. So that's hard for me to interpret since I speak French fluently and it was my first language that I learned. So it is hard for me to judge, but keep in mind it is in French only, but I do feel you can still get away with learning effects from this even though you don't speak the language. But let's talk about the content. So where do you buy this? How much does it cost? And what do you get? So you can buy this directly from P.Molina's website, which is called Magic VOD, so Magic VOD. You can go there and if you speak French, it's a treasure trove of lectures. It has lectures from Babel, from Gregory Wilson, from Markobi, from Philippe himself, etc. It has a ton of lectures with some of the best magicians out there. So it's a treasure trove for lectures if you're interested in that. This specific lecture, so the Markobi lecture, will set you back 39 euros, which I believe is around 45-ish Canadian dollars. And in US dollars, I think it's around 35 USD. I'm not so sure on that conversion per se, but that is the price of it. And what you get is a 5-hour lecture based on card magic. So yes, this is only card magic. So you're not going to learn anything with like mentalism or coins, etc. So the material that you get is very strong. You're going to get over 30 plus routines, sleights, etc. I think I may be wrong because it's been a while since I've viewed it, but I do believe they say it's close to 50. So if you count all the sleights and the mini sleights that he teaches you, you're close to 50. So you're getting 30 effects, but if you count the innovations on sleights and theory, etc., you're getting around close to 50. So that's what you're getting, and I am going to unpack some of my favorite routines, not all of the routines and sleights because there's a lot, but some of my favorites. So one of them is the ambitious card with a split. So instead of having the card constantly rise to the top, it starts backfiring where the card splits. So for example, if you're doing this with a 6, the card is going to split into 2 3s. And then as you take the 2 3s and you throw them on the table, they're going to split, they're going to morph back into the 6. You then place the 6 on the deck, you place it inside, it rises to the top, but it splits back into the 3s, and then one shake into the hand of the spectator goes back into the 6. So it's a very interesting take on the ambitious card. You then have the 4-ace packet trick, which is something that he did, I believe, in his Physimac. He did it with kings, but he does it here with the aces, and if you know his Physimac, you're going to understand how he did that part of his Physimac since it is explained here. Then you're also going to get a 4-card production. You're then going to get a 4-card found between the kings. That is my personal favorite routine within the project. So essentially, the way it works is you take out 2 kings. You then have 4 spectators take out cards. So for the sake of this, we're just going to take cards from the middle. So let's say these 4 cards here. So they're going to take these 4 cards. Okay. You then proceed to place them back in the deck. You can have them place all of them at once back in the deck or one of them one by one. it truly doesn't matter. You then proceed to take the kings and you place them here as you take back the deck. And you say that what you're going to do is you're going to make the cards appear in between the kings. So with one wave, you have one card that appears in between the kings. With two waves, you actually have two cards that appear in between the kings. With three waves, you actually have 1, 2, and 3 cards that appear in between the kings. And with another wave, you actually get 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in between the two kings. And of course, when you reveal, it is hopefully the card selected by the spectators that I showed you at the start, but normally it should well be. So that is my favorite routine. It's very quick, it's very to the point, and it's very fooling in my opinion. It's also very interesting in the way that it's constructed compared to other sandwich routines. You're then getting an invisible palm routine, which is very interesting, where you clearly show that you have nothing. You place your card on the table and the card switches or it changes with an invisible palm. You have a color changing deck. You have a joker effect, which is also very cool. Essentially, I won't perform it, but you have 2 cards select. You have 2 jokers on top of separate to the side. You have 2 cards selected, placed back in the deck. You then take the 2 jokers, you place them in the middle of the deck, just like this. And then with a wave, just like this, over the hand of the spectator, you turn over your hand and you show that the jokers change into the 2 selected cards. And as you remove the cards from the deck and place them back on the table, they immediately switch back to the joker. So it's kind of an illusion that you're creating here. That's one is very nice. You're also getting a mentalism type routine where a spectator thinks of a number. That number of cards appears inside of the box, but then it also appears on their card. It's very interesting. Then you're also getting a routine called 4, which is essentially a 4-ace production, which is it's a bit convoluted, but it's very interesting. You're then getting be taught a bottom production, which is a move in which you can produce cards from the bottom without it being necessarily seen. You then also get his triumph routine, which is great. So it's a very quick, to the point triumph. Then you get another 2 joker transpo. You also get a numbered sandwich, which is very interesting. It's essentially you have two kings, you have a spectator, name a number, and then with the shake, that exact number of cards appears in between the kings. It's very interesting. And then you have another favorite of mine, which is the 2 king transpo effect. It is very good. So essentially you have 2 kings on the table, you have a card selected, you then proceed to lose the card on the table. You say, look, you do a very fishy move like this, where let's say you have these 2 kings here. You do a very fishy move where you're like doing this, right? Like you're pretending to do an add-on as you place the kings here. And then you say, look, you do like a really bad sleight of hand. You say, look, it appears here. And then you show that it actually did not appear here. And then as you spread the deck, you're gonna have the 2 red kings in the middle of the deck face up with their cards selected in the middle. That is a very brilliant routine as well. So these are my highlights of the effects. There you get much more. You get some oil and waters, you get some card at any numbers, you get a ton of other routines, but these are my specific favorites. So now that we know a lot about this project, let's talk about difficulty. So how difficult is this? This is definitely not beginner level, but it's also definitely not advanced level. So the thing is, if you do not speak French and you're not very good at card magic, then this is going to be extremely hard to learn because you're not going to understand a lot of the material. However, if you don't speak French, but you are advanced at card magic, you're going to understand some of these routines and some of the moves more likely than not. If he speaks about like lever double, I think you're going to understand that it's a double lift. Or if he speaks about lever triple, I think you're going to understand it's a triple lift. Or when he says sandwich, I think you're going to understand it's a sandwich effect or a sandwich move. So you are still going to understand a lot of it if you don't speak French, but you are avid in card magic. If you do speak French, then you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. In terms of difficulty, you're going to understand everything, but the moves are varied. Some of the routines are easy, some of them are intermediate, some of them are advanced. There's some routines where you can palm up to 11 cards at the same time. So you're going to have to palm 11 cards in your hand. So some of them are advanced, some of them are not so, but there's something around the spectrum for everyone. But I think that if you're an intermediate magician, you're going to be able to do around 80% of this with minimal practice and 20% with some practice. So difficulty-wise, it's manageable. In terms of practicality, all of the effects, use a deck of cards. None of them really use gimmicks. Some of them use another deck of another color for a color change or for a double prediction, but none really use gimmicks. So there's not any gimmicks here that are being used or anything like that. Yes, some tricks could use a breather, but he teaches you how to make a breather on the spot, etc. So practicality wise, it is very practical. You just need a deck of cards. In terms of angles, most of the routines, if you're doing this sitting down as I am here, or everyone in front of you, is fine. You can, some of the routines, do them 360, no problem. For example, the sandwich routine that I showed you can be done 360, no problem. Some routines do have some angle restriction because you do have to palm, tenkai palm, etc. So you have to carry around about that. But relatively, except for that, all the routines are inspectable. All the routines can be done at a table. 80% of them can be done standing up as well, so you don't need a table for all of the routines. The reset for most of the routines is instant as well. And there's also no setups. So there are some routines that require a setup, but I would say 90% of them don't require you to have a predetermined setup in your deck, which is very nice as well for being just able to take out a deck and free flowing with your magic. So now that we know this, where do you perform these effects? So these effects can be pretty much performed anywhere. If you perform card magic for stage, you can perform these effects. If you perform card magic for cabaret, close-up, walk around, stage, etc., you can perform it there as well. So in terms of performance, you can do it pretty much anywhere. Now that I've said all that, let's get into the positives and negatives, and what are the negatives. So one negative is, of course, for the people that do not speak French, you're going to have a hard time understanding this. You're maybe going to want to learn his magic because he is very, very good and his thinking behind it is exceptional, but you will have a hard time because of the language barrier. And there is, at the point that I'm reviewing this and that I have purchased this, there's no subtitle version or dubbed version available. So you do have to contend with that. Additionally, this is a 5-hour lecture, which also means that if you do not, like myself, take a notepad or a book and you write the minutes of where the tricks that you like are, then you're going to have, because since there's no selection feature, to my knowledge, there's no selection feature, which makes you kind of have to go through the 5-hour long video constantly in order to find the effect that you like, because there's no kind of time frames and time separation. So that is something unfortunate as well. However, in terms of the positives, the routine, the explanations are great. Every single routine has a live performance. There's a ton of variation. Yes, it's card magic galore. You're also going to learn some of his Physimac, not directly, so it's not going to be like, let me teach you a routine for my Physimac. But if you did watch his Physimac or his Penn and Teller performance, you can see, oh, that's a variation of the effect he performed there. So you can get an idea of how he achieved it once you know his methods. The effects are diverse, they're clean, they're practical, they can be done pretty much anywhere. They can be done standing up, sitting down for the most part. It's very much a complete lecture and package. So having said all this, would I recommend this and what do I give it out of 10? I give this my highest recommendations. If you speak French, just buy it. If you do not speak French, but you're very proficient in card magic, I still think this is worth it because I still think you're going to learn a bit from the way that he moves. However, if you do not speak French and you're not very avid in card magic, I don't necessarily recommend this because you're not going to understand a lot of what is going on. But if you do, I think you're going to get so much out of it, especially if you're a card magician. You are going to get a treasure trove of effects, sleights, and thinking behind this product. So what am I giving this out of 10? I'm giving this a 9.5 on 10. I think it's a must for people that are interested in deepening their card magic. I think it is absolutely great. So I give it 9.5 and my highest recommendations. So that is all I have to say about this. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down below. As always, I do my best to answer or at least to interact with it. If not, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in my next review. Have a great one, and bye.